Hello and welcome. If you work in an operating theater anywhere in India, this session is absolutely for you. We are going to build what I call your knowledge shield, piece by piece. Why? To master the crucial standards that protect you, your team, and of course, your patients. All right, let's get right into it. So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the big picture, the regulatory shield. Then we'll get into the specifics with 13 essential standards you need to know. After that, it's all about practical application, how to verify quality every single day, and what to do if things don't go as planned. Okay, first things first. Let's talk about the foundation. Every single textile you touch in the OT, from a gown to a drape, is governed by a powerful legal framework. This framework is what keeps everyone safe. It's your regulatory shield. And the name of that framework is the Medical Devices Rules 2017, or as we all call it, MDR 2017. This is the law of the land, and it's overseen by the CDSCO. That's the Central Drug Standard Control Organization. Now here's the key takeaway. Surgical gowns, drapes, and masks, they are not just pieces of cloth. Under Indian law, they are regulated medical devices. To make this super simple, just think of compliance as having 4 non-negotiable pillars. A great way to remember it is RLQT. Any supplier you work with must have their product registered with the CDSCO. They need a valid license to make or import it. They must prove they have a quality system in place. And they have to ensure complete traceability for every single batch. Simple as that. So, does the law treat all textiles the same? Absolutely not. It's all about risk. As you can see here, something like a medical cap or a shoe cover is considered Class A, which is low risk. But surgical gowns, drapes, and N95 respirators, they're classified as Class B, moderate risk. And that makes perfect sense, right? Because if one of them fails, the consequences for you and the patient are much, much more serious. All right, moving on. If MDR 2017 is the shield itself, think of the Indian standards, or IS, as the layers of high-grade steel that give that shield its strength. And this is where we get into the details that matter every day. And how many are there? 13. 13 core standards that you really need to be aware of. They cover everything from the gown on your back to the machine that sterilizes it. Getting a handle on these is absolutely key to safety in your OT. Let's start with the 7 standards for the textiles you physically handle day in and day out. First up, IS 17334 for gowns and drapes. This is your #1 barrier. It specifies fluid resistance and defines the critical zone, the front and sleeves, that needs the most protection. Next, IS 16289 for masks. This standard is all about verified filtration, setting minimum levels for bacterial filtration efficiency, or BFE. Then we have IS 18266 for N95 respirators. For those high-risk procedures with aerosols, this standard is a lifesaver. It demands at least 95% filtration and, just as importantly, a tight facial seal. Next is IS 17423 for coveralls. This is your full-body protection. The standard focuses on things like seam strength and liquid resistance. Then IS 17629 for caps. Simple but so important for preventing contamination from hair. And now for a critical one, IS 17349 for shoe covers. The single most important thing here, the anti-skid property. OT floors can get wet, and this standard literally prevents slips and falls. And finally, IS 17630 for bed sheets. In the OT, you can't just use any sheet. This standard requires a barrier-type sheet that's fluid-resistant to protect the operating table. Now, let's look at the 6 back-end standards that ensure the whole system works. First, IS 18105 for symbols. This is the universal language on every medical package. The sterile symbol, the do not reuse symbol, the expiry date hourglass, you have to know these. Then there's IS 18376 for post-market surveillance. Think of this as our safety net. It's the system for reporting any product failures, which is so important. We'll come back to this. Next, IS 1138 for biological indicators. This is how we prove sterilization actually worked. It tells us which microbes to use to test the sterilizers. If they're dead, the load is sterile. It's a fundamental check. Then we have IS 11607 and 14161, which covers sterile packaging. They ensure that peel pouch stays sealed and the contents stay sterile until the moment you use them. And lastly, IS 1140 for the autoclave equipment itself. This standard sets safety and performance requirements for the machine, ensuring it works effectively every single time. Okay, let's zoom in on IS 17334 because it's so important. It's not a one-size-fits-all standard. A standard performance gown might be perfectly fine for a low fluid case like a lap coolie. But if you're going into a major ortho or cardiac surgery where you expect significant fluid exposure, you absolutely must have a high-performance gown. Using the right level of protection for the right procedure is what this standard is all about. And it's the same story with masks under IS 16289. A Type I mask is fine for patients. But in the OT, you should be using a Type 2, which has a higher filtration efficiency of at least 98%. Now, what if there's a risk of a fluid splash, say in ortho or OBS? That's when you need a Type IR. That R stands for resistant, and it means the mask has an extra layer of protection to stop fluids from getting through. So, knowing the standards is one thing, but actively checking them is where the magic happens. This next part is all about the practical, hands-on checks that you and your team can and should be doing to keep that quality shield strong. See, quality isn't a single event. It's a process with 4 distinct stages. It starts before you even buy the product, continues when it arrives at your hospital, has a critical checkpoint right before use, and is even monitored during the procedure itself.
So at stage 1, before anything is bought, the procurement team has a job to do. They need to use the MINT checklist. Think of this as their non-negotiable guide for vetting any supplier. So what is MINT? It stands for M for MDR registration. Is the product legally registered? I for ISO 1385. Does the manufacturer have the right quality certification? N for NABL test reports. Can they prove their claims with real lab data? And T for traceability. Can they provide a certificate of analysis for each batch? Look, if a supplier can't tick all the boxes for Mint, you simply do not buy from them.
Okay, next stage, the boxes have arrived at the hospital store. Now it's time for the piles check. This is a super quick 5-second inspection that anyone receiving the delivery can do.
So what's in a piles check? P is for package integrity. Any rips or holes? I is for the IS standard. Is the right standard number printed on the label? L is for lot and expiry date. Are they clear and visible? E is for equipment compatibility. And S is for the sterile symbol. Is it there? A quick scan of these 5 things can stop a major problem from ever reaching the OT.
Now, we come to the most critical moment of verification right before surgery. The scrub nurse is the final guardian of that sterile barrier, and their tool for this last check is the CLITS protocol. CLITS is a 5-point physical inspection. C, check the critical zone for any defects. L, do a quick visual check of the liquid barrier. I, is the IS 17334 performance level correct for this specific surgery? T, give it a good tear-free inspection. And S, is the sterile peel pouch absolutely intact before you open it? This empowers the nurse to be the final gatekeeper of safety. But okay, we live in the real world. What happens if, despite all these checks, a product fails during a procedure? This is where we shift from prevention to response. How you handle a failure is just as critical as how you try to prevent one. And please never, ever underestimate your own power here. That gown that tore or that drape that leaked, reporting it isn't just about your patient in that moment. A single, well-documented report can identify a faulty batch and trigger a recall that could literally save other patients in other hospitals from harm. Your voice matters. When a failure happens, don't panic. Just follow the simple 5-step STOPR protocol. Stop using the product immediately. Take a sample. Don't just throw it away. Observe and record the key details, especially that batch number. Photograph the defect if you can. And finally, report it to your OT manager. Simple, clear, and incredibly effective. So let's just quickly recap the amazing set of tools we've just put in your hands. We have RLQT for checking supplier compliance, MINT for the procurement team, piles for when the goods arrive, CLITS for that final, critical pre-use check, and stopper for when things go wrong. Together, these form a complete quality management toolkit to build and maintain your safety shield. So I'll leave you with this one thought. The next time you're scrubbing in and you reach for that sterile gown, what are you going to check first? Will you look for the ISO standard on the pack? Will you do that final CLIH check? Remember, your knowledge is your power, and your diligence is the ultimate shield for every single patient.